Hi everyone, welcome to THT, and today I'm gonna show you 4 decks that I've built using the new cards from Secret of Power, which have been fully spoiled earlier this week. I did my best to playtest as many decks as possible, and the 4 decks I'm gonna show you today are the 3 decks I had the most success with, alongside one deck that has been designed by Beton. So those decks are gonna be excellent starting points to start finding what sort of new archetypes that we can expect from the new set. Obviously, those are really early design and they're still kind of being improved as we speak, but those are excellent starting points, and I'm going to show you that the leaders that I thought had a lot of potential, but I was really unsure on whether or not they're going to be good, ended up really working really well as far as I've been testing them, which is really great news, and I'm having a lot of fun with this new expansion. This video is sponsored by Card Market, the best marketplace to buy and sell cards in Europe. And we start off right away with the first list. This is Sabé, my Sabé yellow list. I think Sabé double yellow is the one that made the most sense to me, at least on the first times I wanted to build it. There's tons of great, there's one new card which is called Face of a New Friend, which is the card at the middle here, which is honestly a big reason to go double yellow. Obviously, you can possibly play this card in a deck that is not double yellow, but I think in a double yellow deck, this card is a lot more reliable, allowing you to start out right off the gate with 2 spy tokens, as well as the card replacing itself. The other cool thing about this card is that, yeah, it's very easy to get the triple yellow double cunning requirement, even if you don't have a lot of cards in hand, because the first ability triggers first, meaning that you get to find your new cards, and then after this, you're gonna have the disclose requirements, so you can actually select the card to make sure that you meet the requirements to get the double spy opening. So this is basically a go wide build. So I'm playing a lot of 1-drops. I'm trying to open up with double 1-drop opening, and in this color combination, we got the best 1-drop in the game. We got Greedo. And we got a bunch of R2s. R2s basically are here to combine with Babu Freak. The ideal opening that we're looking forward to is Babu Freak R2D2. If you really want to even improve your chances to find this opening, you can even play a Nabat Village instead of the 30 HP base. And this way you get yourself a very strong start with essentially those two together will allow you to swing for 4 in one action on the turn after. Which is really nice. And just an R2 into a Greedo is very strong. The advantage of going double drop 1-drop opening means that basically even if your opponent has a removal, you're still going to be able to attack base and trigger Sabé's ability right from the second turn of the game, which I think is great. So we'll still have a couple of solid 2-drops like Face in Your Friends, Bail Organa, which is another good way to basically spread the board and kind of get yourself a white board. We can even sometimes start off with Spark of Rebellion, or we can even get a 1-drop opening alongside a stolen Star Path unit, which is going to be a great card because thanks to Sabé's ability, we can kind of predict what kind of card your opponent can possibly draw. We also combine this with a lot of discard with Spark of Rebellion's Body Rook, being able to see what your opponent has in hand to make your Body Rook more reliable. It's just a really good upgrade, and once again it generates spy tokens, which is once again great into kind of go wide theme. So the deck is basically very much a go wide deck. Got a bunch of we try to be aggressive and try to go as wide as possible, and while putting the pressure, we have a lot of buffs with the Ultra D44 Blasters, the Surprise Track, obviously Cunning, which is just an amazing tool for racing. Chancellor Palpatine is honestly ideal for this deck because we have so much token generation, which means that those tokens come into play ready. Is a very powerful ability. He's also quite difficult to kill. So I think he's really great for this build. Million Falcons is just a great finisher. And then we got the really solid Cantina Bouncers, Body Rook. Body Rook, Spark of Rebellion will make sure your opponent will never get some sort of bold wipes that will allow us to get rid of everything we have. And Sabé, of course, to control the opponent's draw. And Sabé deploying on 5 makes it for an excellent Plo Koon. Plo Koon is almost always going to get coordinate to one-shot something on ambush and basically be able to kill something with 6 HP and also put a ton of pressure. So this deck made a lot of sense to me, and I really had a lot of success with it. We get a good amount of hand control, making sure opponent doesn't find any ways to deal with our very wide board. We can generate a very wide board, and then we can race very efficiently. We got solid leader deploy, we got really good buff, really good ways to finish the game. And we have also answers to enemy units with Cantina Bouncers and Plo Koon. Even if something gets through the crack of our discard and our filtering from Sabé, we can kind of finish it off. We can still get rid of it with a Cunning, Bouncer, or Plo Koon. So I think the deck is really cool. Don't pay too much attention to the sideboard. We get the usual suspect, the Bamboozled, Jam Communication, some extra discard, and then the new blue ace as a kind of anti-space unit thing. But all this is, of course, going to need to be tweaked. But the idea of the list is here, and the idea is really powerful. The next deck I want to show off is a deck that I've been teasing and talking about since Mon Mothma has been spoiled. It is the Mon Mothma Droid Manufactury Unity of Purpose deck. So this deck is basically the same idea as the Rex deck, where we're going to be trying to build a massive boards of units, and then play of Unity of Purpose to make all of our units humongously large, and then basically attack opponent and just win. So it's actually an aggro combo deck. It's a deck that can win by being aggressive and just attacking with our units, and taking over the board and racing. We have a lot of ways to restore, so we can kind of like play the fair game. But obviously the primary win condition is to use Unity of Purpose to basically buff our stuff immensely. Obviously we have the Droid Manufactory, so we deploy Mon Mothma and we can generate a bunch of units. So there's been I think one of the biggest addition to this archetype in general, and this addition also works for the Rex variant of the deck, is the new plot Chancellor Palpatine. This card is amazing because it generates 3 bodies whenever you deploy your leader. And the thing is, one is a very important thing. One makes Unity of Purpose more powerful as if ever you have the initiative, and you can play Unity of Purpose because before your opponent gets the chance to do anything, you can actually deploy your leader, get yourself 5 extra bodies on top of your leader with the Droid Manufactory plus the plot coming from Palpatine. That generates just basically 5 units on top of Mon Mothma. If you're playing Rex, that will generate 6 units. And then you basically take initiative, and then you're ready to go into your purpose next turn. Even on an empty board, even if your opponent has managed to kill every single unit up to that point, this will be enough to kill most people, which is just incredible. So this is a really big addition. So the big question that I have not answered is, why are we playing Mon Mothma over Rex? The first reason is that obviously Mon Mothma, whenever you're playing a double green deck, double green is still one of the worst double aspect color in the game. This has not changed, which means that playing double green is very restrictive on the card you can play. Playing Mon Mothma allows you to play a bunch of officials which are very powerful in the deck that normally you wouldn't be able to play in a Rex deck. So basically the number one reason is like it gives you access to a wider amount of different cards. So for example, Bail Organa is a very tanky unit that can generate multiple bodies when in attack. That's perfect for the deck. Populist Advisor is a great card to play alongside R2. It's a great turn 1 play that can really block the opponent and act as a sentinels, which can be really handy. We got Favorable Delegate, which allows us to dig for Unity of Purpose, as well as being a very tanky body. We got Leia Organa, which is a great way to add additional body and also tempo the opponent out. And sometimes you can just plays as a 2/2 for 1 by readying one of your own resource and playing multiple units. We got Outspoken Representative, which is another sentinel that can block the opponent and leave a unit behind when he dies. We got regular Regional Governor, which will block all the specific card that can really screw our deck, like things like Evacuate or any board wipes that might occur. We also have the Bureaucrat, the Regulation Bureaucrat, which is just super obnoxious against certain decks, especially when you have initiative. The resource denial is just very powerful, and it's also once again a very tanky body. So that's basically the number one reason. The second reason why so Chancellor Palpatine also out of aspect is a great card for the deck, multiple bodies. The second reason, and to me that's the most important one, is the ability to heal. So one of the big issue with Mon Mothma, with the droid manufactury unity for purpose decks, is that you have a 24 HP base, which makes you extremely vulnerable to aggro deck that simply just want to go face. And I feel like Renown Dignitaries solve this problem because it's gonna heal us too for every single officials we have in play. And the vast majority of the deck is made of official. Like, it's actually nearly 90% of the deck is made of official. Which means that this card is consistently going to heal us 10, 12, or even more than that. And just completely reset our HP total, which is going to allow us to win matchup that we normally would not be able to win otherwise. We can basically ramp with command and go like dignitaries and just win, like, and just completely reset all boards. As long as we're able to stay alive until the point we play it, which once again we can do because we have ways to heal. We have so Bonterry is also an amazing addition to the deck. Basically a card that draws you a card, digs for unity of purpose, gives you a very solid body that heals and is also official. Queen Amidala and Chancellor Palpatine. So that's reason number 3 that I really like this version of the deck, is because this combo here allows us to be very aggressive, and this deck can really be aggressive if it wants to. Chancellor Palpatine, followed by Queen Amidala, gives all those spies, and those spies comes to play ready, can put a tremendous amount of pressure on the opponent as well. So there's just simply a lot of good stuff going on with this deck that makes it really, really good. And I think this deck is a huge upgrade over the Reaction to Purpose deck, because it's not so. Reaction to Purpose has always been a great deck against control, but it's a deck that often struggle against aggro, and struggle against basically mid-range that are especially mid-range deck that have a easy time getting rid of units. Now aggro is not so much a weakness anymore. However, mid-range that is able to clear our board very easily is still a problem for us. So it's not a deck that beats everything, but I think it has far fewer weaknesses than the Rex deck. We also have like some great sideboard solutions. We got the trade route taxation, which is amazing against control decks. We got the new dismantle the conspiracy, which is a way to stop aggro decks in space. We got the chandelier. Forgot the name. This is a 2/3 restore 2 for 2 officials. This card combined with the Senator Churil, which we have a 3rd copy of in the sideboard, can give us an absurd amount of restore. Basically, you can play this turn 1, and then you follow this by this turn 2. You can basically restore a huge amount. And honestly, if you want to make the deck even more restore focus, we can play other cards like Opal's Rankis, or some other cards that can also offer that. But basically, those 2 cards together will basically restore 5. That's insane. So restore 5 as early as turn 3 is something that not many aggro deck can outrace. So there's a lot of more solutions to aggro than what you have in your Rex traditional deck. And once again, as soon as you get to the point where you can play Unity of Purpose or Renown Dignitaries, you can just reset your life total, and once again you can just race from that point on and win the game. So I think it's a really cool deck. Mon Mothma also giving a +1 health bonus to all officials makes it so it's even more difficult to clear out the board. Mon Mothma herself being a 3/7 is also a more difficult body to clear out than Rex himself, even though Rex comes into play with a 2/2 body. So basically the only main advantage of Rex is the fact that he comes out with an extra body when he deploys, which makes Unity of Purpose more powerful. But to be honest, I think it's a little bit overkill, and I also think that Rex leader ability to generate a token every once in a while is really not, you don't use that ability often at all. I think Mon Mothma passive is just way more valuable. So yeah, I think it's a really cool deck. It's really fun. If you like the Rex deck, you're gonna love this deck. It's even more fun to play. There's even more things to do, and there's more ways to win the game than just slapping Unity of Purpose, as in my opinion. Talking about Chancellor Palpatine, I've showed 2 deck lists which actually feature that card. It's a card that basically has never seen play so far, but I expect this expansion to tremendously change that. This is the perfect expansion for Palpatine. You can play it in any double yellow deck, or you can play it in a Mon Mothma deck, and making token unit come into play ready is a big deal in this expansion, as as you know, there's so many ways to generate tokens, and and then the card just becomes really really good. So it currently goes at €1 on card market. It's still gonna remain a niche card, don't get me wrong, but I think it's definitely gonna go up in price, so you should definitely pick up your playset before it goes up. Next, we got a list, and this list has been designed by Beton from Team Enigma, and this is the Padmé Tarkin Town list. So this is pretty much runs on the same idea as the Cad Bane Tarkin Town decks or the Quinlan Tarkin Town decks. As we try to make FFG has been. We've been a lot of Tarkin Town decks have been banned throughout been banned or nerfed throughout the history of Star Wars Limited. First there was Django, then there was Quinlan, which has been heavily nerfed by the ban of Fourth Throw. Still a competitive deck though, but I don't know, like FFG just loves those ping leaders, so they just keep coming back. And Padmé is one of those ping leaders, which I think is going to be really powerful. So, one of the inconveniences of Padmé, the problem of Padmé in a nutshell is that she deploys on 6 and doesn't have great stats. So that's the problem that she has. However, this is made up by a very strong advantage, is that her ping, actually you do decide where the ping goes, as opposed to Quinlan and as opposed to Cad Bane, that you don't choose where the ping goes. With Padmé, you actually do choose where the ping goes, which is a really big deal. The inconvenience is that you have to play a lot of cards that either reveal or discard from your hand for this to work, but it turns out that there's actually quite a few cards that can do this in the set, making her very very easy to turn on. I think that I was a little bit skeptical of her when she got first spoiled, but with the amount of support that we've seen throughout the set for her, there's definitely enough there to make her really really powerful. So start off, of course, with the 2-drops. There's obviously the Warrior of the Clan, which is just amazing because it's a 3/3 for 2, and in this deck, the downside of having to show a red card from your hand actually becomes an upside because of Padmé. Because then you get to actually use the ping whenever he attacks, which is incredible. So a 3/3 that basically pings when you attack, incredible. We got also R2, which is a 2/4 that, once again, is when play, allow you to discard a card and get another one, and will actually trigger Padmé's ping. Bail Organa will also ping every time he attacks, producing another 0/2. Bail Organa has been a great 2-drops. And then we got the Greedo. The Greedo ability also works with Padmé because you're discarding a card. And actually it doesn't work because it's not from your hand. Never mind. It's from your deck. And then obviously because we have a lot of discard effect, Migs actually is going to be really strong as well. So you can't use Migs the same way you do in Kylo Tarkitan. You can't just discard on turn 1, but it's still going to be a really big threat in this deck. Then we got the Stolen Starport unit, which Beton has been a really big fan of, and me as well, to be fair. It's just a cheap upgrades, generate tokens over time, allow to see your opponent's hand, and yeah, which also is gonna make your Kira, like, you'll be able to see your opponent's hand with Kira. He doesn't play any selective discard, but it's just a solid card. Then we got the Face of In Your Friends, which is amazing in this deck. Might be a little bit more difficult to turn on compared to my Sabé list. So maybe there's some times where you can't, but even then I still think it should be fairly consistent. Once again, you reveal, you ping, you generate 2 tokens. Incredible. And yeah, so then we got the Blue Ace, just some solid 4-drops, K2SO, Kira, Poe Dameron, Wrecker, just some good stuff all around. We got the new Anakin Skywalker, which is amazing with Padmé, because he gets raid 2. It's a 3/4 raid 2, basically, hidden. So you can't, even though he has low HP, like a 4 HP, which is not super survivable, because he has hidden, he's very likely to be able to untap and kill. And then we got the new Bounds. The new Bounds actually allows you to see your opponent's hands, which synergize with the Stolen Starport units. And the usual suspect, 4 blasters, Jetpack, which additional Smuggle with Jetpack, and the Greedo. So just a really really solid deck. He hasn't built a sideboard for the deck, but to be fair, it's still very early on. He's still improving the list, and he might show it on the Super Racer YouTube channel at some point once he gets to maturity. But you can see here kind of a an early inception of the deck, and I think the deck is very, very promising. Moving on, this is the deck I've been the most excited for, and the deck I've had the most success with playing it online. I think this deck is incredibly powerful. It is the Bail Organa Joint Manufactory deck, which does look like another Unity of Purpose deck, but it's not. It's not a Unity of Purpose deck. Unity of Purpose is just too slow in this deck. And also, the deck is not designed to keep units around. It's really just a very aggressive deck that is using Joint Manufactory as a value engine. So the idea is that Bail Organa is a leader that can deploy multiple times in a game, but it can deploy multiple times for free, and relatively early in the game, compared to something like Admiral Trench. And so I just thought, what is the best way to generate value with Bail Organa? What is the card that's gonna make my leader deployment so much better? And the best card to take advantage of leader's deployment in the game is by far Joint Manufactory, giving you 2 extra 1/1s every time you deploy. And obviously in that color combination, there's tons of way to take advantage of a very wide board. And this combo is just absolutely absurd. Bail Organa Joint Manufactory is going to be one of the, in my opinion, it's one of the most powerful combo that we're seeing in the set. And it makes it so you can basically, every 2 turns from turn 3 onward, you can basically generate a huge a full board of units for free, which is incredible. I mean, you have to discard 2 cards, but the thing is, we are playing obviously in order to make up for the fact that we're discarding cards, we are playing a lot of plot cards, which means that the turn where we actually discarding the card by deploying Bail Organa, we actually don't care too much about discarding cards because we're going to be playing from the plot anyway. So the idea is, whenever Bail is in play, you play from your hand, and whenever play deploys, you play from plot. That's basically the whole point, and making plot cards even better as well, because now you get to use them every time your leader deploys, which is going to be multiple times per game. And the other cool thing about this as well is that it's a deck that has a relatively low curve, so the deck is almost never going to resource beyond, like, it might be on, the only reason why we're going to be resourcing beyond 5 is because we just got plot cards, and we would rather just play them from the plot than from hand. But the deck basically can operate perfectly well with 4 or 5 resources, which makes it that at some point we're going to be we're going to stop resourcing cards, which means that we don't mind the discarding cards from Bail. So it just is an incredibly engine. You just don't run out of cards, and you keep deploying your leaders over and over again, which is incredible against control, but not only. And we just generate this amount of use. So obviously we're playing a deck that tries to take advantage of this. So first of all, there's the plot cards, which are needed for you to not run out of cards, but also make your deployment even more impactful. We got the 3 copies of Jar Jar Binks, gives you a body, makes the Bail Organa 5/5, incredible card in this deck. The Naboo Royal Starfighter, which is kind of like just a big copies of Jar Jar Binks. It doesn't give +2/+2. Raid 2 is not as good as +2/+2, but it's a permanent bonus, and it also gives you a much bigger body. We also have another way to improve Bail's body with the Unveiled Might. That gives us +2/+3, making Bail a lot more difficult to deal with, and we can actually go tall with Bail and make him like a pretty big threat against certain decks that can be really powerful. So those are basically our plot cards. The rest is just basically our 2-drops. We play a lot of 2-drops, but there's a few of those 2-drops which are not real 2-drops. We basically never want to play Echo or Jar Jar Binks as our turn 1 play. So in reality, we kind of only have 12 2-drops play. So we're playing the best 2-drops in the game: Battlefield Marines, Gungi, and Maz Bonteri. Maz Bonteri, she's just insane in this. She's just the best card in the set, in my opinion. At least as far as I've tested. The ability to draw, it's just to draw cards, restore and the stats are just absurd. Field Squadron, just to have a bit of interaction in space against space deck, that can be really handy. Obviously, on our turn 2 plays, we got some of the best turn 2 in the games: your Obi-Wan Kenobi, Oppo Rancis. Oppo Rancis is just so good in this deck because If you open up with Mass Bonteri, then you're basically playing a 3-5 Restore 2, which is incredible. And then you can play a Thundery Peacekeeper, and then suddenly this is a 5-5 Restore 2. Like, it's just really, really, really putting a lot of pressure on your opponent. Once again, the floor for this card is very low because it's just 3-5 for 3, and the ceiling for the card is really, really high as well. Then we got, obviously, Obi-Wan, just a really solid card as well. Thundery Peacekeeper is really good for racing whenever your opponent is ignoring us. We only have 24 HP base, so if your opponent decides to race us in space, we need to have ways to raise them, and Restore is the best way to do that. Even though we do have some interaction in space with the Phoenix West Squadron, the Blue Leader, and the Naboo Starfighter as well. Obviously, Akbar is insane in this deck because we are able to go so wide with all those extra joys we're gonna get, making Akbar just an incredible removal. Another great card at taking advantage of the very wide board is the Figure of Unity. So this card I kind of dunked on this card pretty hard in my first impression videos, but I got to admit that in a deck that is able to go wide like this card is really, really good. You put this on Bail, making a +2/+2, and then suddenly all of your droids become 1/1, raid 1, restore 1. That's just really, really strong. And another way, once again, to race if you are running against another aggro deck that is ignoring your units going in space. Well, with Figure of Unity, good luck racing your opponent with that. And also the fact that you can give Restore 1 to all of your unit and raid 1, meaning that Oporansis will also get basically raid 3 plus Restore 3. Which is there's a nice little combo between Figure of Unity, and Oporansis, which is really nice. But yeah, so other than this, we got some Entropy's Lackey because this card is so good against control. I mean, if you're playing double grain, you should always play a couple of copies of Entropy's Lackey. This card is just too good against control to ignore. And keep in mind also that any units you play from your resource, whether it is a smuggle or a plot, will also heal your base with Bail. Which also means that Bail really does a wonderful job at making up for the lack of HP on your base, because all the cards you play from your resource will heal your base as well. And then as a finisher, we also play Clone Commando Cody. Which is a really good finisher for the deck because it gives you additional body and gives +1/+1 to everybody, which is great. I'm still kind of pondering whether I should play Amidala instead. There's different options available to me. The deck is still under construction, but at least you get the idea. We also play Command. Command is good for 2 reasons in this deck, so it's obviously a very flexible card. Can be a removal. Once again, my opponent goes to space, try to ignore us. We can use it as a removal. Most of the space decks have non-unique cards. We almost never use the ramp. You can use the ramp if you really don't know what else to do with the card, but we rarely use the ramp. We always use the double XP thing to make our units bigger and put more pressure on your opponent. And we like to actually use the card that brings the card from your discard pile back in your hands because it's card advantage. So just the way we use Bail Organa, I've played probably over 30 games with this deck, and I've never ever used Bail Organa activate ability, because you either want Bail, like I use it once. You might use it in a very early stage of the game if by any chance one of your unit dies in the early stage of the game and you have an extra resource that you don't know what to do with, but that's very, very rare. Once Bail Organa has the ability to deploy, you're either going to deploy him or he's going to be dead, or he's going to be in play. So you almost never use his leader ability. On the sideboard, so we got the trade routes taxation, which is really obnoxious against control. We got Asapaton Delta against people who are ignoring us in order to take advantage of a big board. You could play a Unity of Purpose instead, but I feel like Unity of Purpose is going to be a little bit too slow in those matchups. We got more copies of Figure of Unity, once again for people who are trying to ignore us. Bright Hope for the space, and Entropy's Lackey against control. It's a really powerful deck. It's a deck that is basically going to put a tremendous amount of pressure on the opponent. And and it's also a very resilient deck. It's a deck that no matter how many times you try to get rid of their units, the Bail Organa just generates so much board value that makes it just extremely obnoxious. So yeah, so this is basically the deck. Bail Organa, join manufactury. Uh, there's I was once again a little bit kind of like I didn't know whether or not Bail Organa was going to be competitive, but now that I've played a few games with him, I have to say this deck is extremely impressive, and I'll be extremely surprised if some sort of version of Bail is not meta. Like, I'll be very surprised if there were no version of Bail Organa which would be meta. This is definitely one of the 4 decks I'm showing you today. This is the one I'm the most confident will be meta to some degree. Once again, might not be the double green version, even though I think the double green is the most promising on paper because the joint manufacturing value is just too good. But it is definitely a very powerful deck, and you should definitely give it a try if you want. Thank you so much for following that video. I'll see you next time for more decks about on Secret of Power. But obviously, I'm not done with the current Legion of the Force meta. We still have the Sector Qualifier Munich, and also I'm going to review the last few PQs that we had in the last few weeks, see if there's anything interesting to see there. Thank you so much for following that video, and I'll see you next time.